Yeah, how it is really easy to get scammed in the space at the moment, unfortunately. And it puts a bad taste in people's mouth. And Web3, I believe, is a really good thing. It's for the benefit of the majority of people, of if not just the masses as a whole. It opens opportunity. It creates a more fair and equal space. And as with just the internet and what it is, there's always going to be groups of people that are trying to take advantage of people, and it is upsetting, and that's why cybersecurity especially is like super important now, with everything all the way up to the metaverse, which we're coming up to in the next 5 to 10 years. Cybersecurity is super important.
Yeah, exactly. I think there are like two ways to actually counter measure all the scams. You can either go with the regulatory framework, like tighten the regulatory framework, go after the scammers, say everything is a security and you can't do it, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. Or you can try to do something more on the cybersecurity side. So scan all the, like having within your wallet integrated all the cyber security options. Like, for example, you could have machine learning models scanning the contracts, looking for the possible exploits, stuff like that. So that's really not done currently. Like, I imagine like really machine learning fueled wallet that would basically scan live all the contracts looking for the possible exploits. That would be probably the best thing you could do. And in this case, because I think like the spirit of crypto is have it unregulated in a way, and the less it's regulated, the more it allows to have this basically this amazing creativity. This is like something I have seen in startups, but like 10 or 15 years ago when I was starting with startups, and like there was this amazing energy of people going to tech startups. And it's the same with crypto right now, because it really faded in startups. Like, it got to the point where what are the steps, and it's like very of like creating a tech startup, what investors are looking for. It got super streamlined, and that killed a lot of creativity, I guess.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be super shocked when they hear that you got him started in tech startups 10, 15 years ago. Like, you're a young guy, you're under 30, Forbes 30 under 30.
No, actually, I'm past 30. I'm 34 right now.
He's 34 now.
I'm 34, yeah. So that's why 15 years, because I was like 19 when I was like looking at the startups. Mm-hmm. And then, well, I started my first startup when I was like something like 26, 27. So it was like 7-8 years ago, basically.
Okay, so how did you find startup culture starting in? How did that process go from 19 getting interested in tech to 27 starting your own startup?
Yeah, sure. So basically, when I was 19 and before that, I wanted to be a mathematician. Always, I love mathematics. So I went like, I had a PhD in mathematics. I was on this route to become a super pro mathematician, meaning being a professor at the university, doing research my whole life. So I did my PhD in Paris. I was then a research fellow at Oxford for 2 years. So that was awesome. But then I decided that actually this like my domain of mathematics was super pure, meaning there was like no applications to real life. Mm-hmm. And I just got burned out in a way that that mathematics was interesting, but I didn't want to spend my whole life doing just that. And I wanted to have a little bit of applications. So going from mathematics, I love intellectual challenges. So I just went from mathematics to data science / machine learning, because that was like really close in the end. It was like switching over from mathematics to machine learning was really pretty much easy from my perspective. And I started doing consulting for some of the companies. And then I went with building my own products with different friends, different startups. So this is also how I got on the Forbes 30 under 30 list in Poland for one of my startups. But that was already like 4 years ago. Okay. When I was still before 30, basically.
Before 30, just before 30.
Yeah. Just before, yeah.
Well, that's still an incredible thing to do, reaching to that level of success being so young. I think there's a lot of people that kind of aspire to get to that similar level for their particular niche or industry. So what were some of the big mistakes or some of the really big hurdles that you faced going through your being 19, going through your first startup with your friends and making it onto the Forbes 30 under 30 list, what were some of the biggest mistakes that you faced?
Yeah, I think like I never appreciated the role up to a certain point, the role of marketing and marketing and content marketing. So which then turned, because now I love the whole part, and I really went hard on marketing in the latest venues. But before that, I have like 2 failed startups just because of the marketing, and just because of like failing to acquire customers in like a consistent way.
So if you were to do it over again, that's what you do. You'd implement a stronger marketing strategy.
Oh yeah, I would implement any marketing strategy. Just anything. Like, especially like back then, like when I was starting my first startups, like 8 years ago, like Facebook ads were much cheaper than they are right now. Google ads, that's the same, and so on. So you could really do much more. And right now it probably would be very different. Like especially in Web3, the marketing strategies are very different from Web2. Yeah. Because in Web2, it's like probably Web2 is dominated right now by influencer marketing to a certain extent. Probably the same thing happens in Web3 actually, but it's you have to collaborate, like with Twitter influencers. It's a little bit different, maybe some Discord channels, stuff like that.
Yeah, working more closely with ambassadors and with the creator economy, those kind of nano and micro influencers really coming into play, who've got those really, really engaged followings with like 2,000 to 10,000 people, but they're super engaged and really want to speak to them, that will help you and boost your company because they like the brand and work on more of like a commission basis than say going straight for the 2 million follower. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I'm not super into celebrities. Yeah. Maybe I should open my eyes to it. But some of these bigger accounts who've got millions and millions of followers who are charging tens and 20s and almost hundreds of thousands per post, just to, be seen by lots of people, but not necessarily get the conversions that you're looking for from the marketing efforts into the sales. So while you were going through your startup process with Conveyance and Alumni, and now with Stealth Web3, what questions do you ask yourself on a daily? Do you have a kind of way to keep your mindset in check, to keep you focused on where you want to go?
Yeah, I do. But probably the answer to that is I was always doing things that I'm passionate about in one way or another, that are interesting to me. So it was never a question of, do I need to focus in any particular way? Because I was naturally focused on this particular subject. So the only thing is probably planning. I like planning ahead and like having everything detailed, like in a plan where I have all the small points listed, and then it really helps me in the long run. So that's really great. But the more people you have on your team, the harder it is to do it to some extent, because you depend on other people and so on. So this planning really, like you have to improvise as well. Yeah, you have to be open to the other team members doing and adjust your plans accordingly. But basically, planning helps a lot, and knowing what you will do the next day helps. That's basically why I started also a YouTube channel, to have this one thing that I do every day, which is very repetitive in a way. Because except for that, like all the other stuff I do, which basically amounts to like analysis of different products, looking at the markets, or like coding some stuff, then it's super non-repetitive in a way. Like each day is very different.
So do you make YouTube videos every day? Do you record a new video every day?
I try to. Yeah, I try to.
Love it.
At least I'm trying to force myself to do it. Even if it has to be like only 5 minutes, anything like that's the goal. Because I think like if you have this discipline, then it really helps a lot in many different ways. Yeah.
And then finding someone to do the editing as well. And or do you do the editing yourself, or do you find someone to do it for you?
No, for now I'm doing that myself, but yeah, once the channel grows, I probably will find someone to.
So we spoke again briefly last week about only touched on it about a work-life balance and finding things that you're passionate about that you can work towards, but then also finding that downtime to switch off and relax and allow your brain to calm down, so to avoid getting burnt out. What steps do you take to ensure you don't get burnt out, or do you not get it at all?
No, so I have a bunch of hobbies that I try to rotate from one to another depending on my mood, and probably that helps. So definitely especially I was looking for hobbies that are not looking again at the screen, because I like video games, but I'm trying not to do that too much, because
I completely get what you mean.
yeah, because you can, like, if you stop working and you are just looking at the screen for like 8-10 hours, and then you have another 2 hours of watching at the TV, like playing PlayStation, then basically it's super hard, and you don't really rest that much. Yes. So for me, it's mostly reading and miniatures painting. So I have like a bunch of Warhammer 40,000 armies, Star Wars Legion, and a bunch of other miniature games as well. So I'm not really a huge player. I don't even know all the rules. I'm playing with friends from time to time, but I'm mostly just painting, gluing, everything. That's really relaxing. So I paint and I listen to a podcast, and that's great.
Oh, brilliant! I'm a painter myself as well. I like doing art. I like sketching is more mine. The sketching. Did a little bit of painting here and there. I've always wanted to get involved in the kind of Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer kind of space where you get to create the pieces that you play with. That's always been really interesting to me. So it's really cool to see that's kind of stuff that you do. But you're into reading. What kind of stuff do you read? Is it? I think a lot of people would expect like loads of self-help books and like the 5 steps to a conversation, this kind of stuff. Well, what's your avenue? What do you enjoy reading?
So I read basically everything, but right now it happens to be actually a book about crypto. I read Cryptopians. That's the book from Laura Shin. And it's basically the story of Ethereum, which is really great. The other thing I read is Inside the House of Money. I have it even with me here. So it's a book about like it's interviews with hedge fund managers basically, and the strategies. Super interesting because, of course, everyone in crypto thinks that it's super unique, but in the end, like history repeats itself, and there are like many lessons to be learned from other markets as well. So I'm trying to get that kind of knowledge as well, because I think like there are many things to be learned from 2008 crisis, the real estate bubble, .com bubble, and a bunch of other crises in the past. And
that's all tied into that book.
So yeah. I mean, it's mostly actually real estate. Here it's 2008 crisis a little bit, but mostly Great Depression from 20th century, and I think they have .com bubble as well covered.
So definitely check that out if you want to learn more about how history repeats itself in markets. I'm a big fan of I like The Witcher. I'm reading the Witcher at the moment.
I love The Witcher, yeah.
Massive fan of these books. I was never really a fan of reading when I was younger, I'm not going to lie. And then I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I really enjoyed that. I didn't think I'd read a book about finance and self-help that would actually make me laugh. In the first chapter, I was laughing about the stuff that he was doing to try and earn money as a kid, like getting the lead out of toothpaste tubes when they were younger to try and make their own coins. And that's really tickled me. But following that, I read Steve Jobs by Walter Isaac.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic book. I felt so connected to
I have to read it. Yeah, I have it on my shelf, but too many books basically. I see it.
right next to my Polish dictionary.
Awesome. By the way, The Psychology of Money is great. I've read that recently, and there was a podcast on Bankless with the author Morgan Housel, I think that was his name. And it's really great. It's kind of self-help. It's kind of economic book. but it really tries to get your financials under control. And I think it really helps when it comes to thinking about the wealth long term. So how to like that's the main question, like how to create, what is wealth, how to create wealth, and the difference between being wealthy and being rich. So that's the
true. What's it? Wealth is your ability to last without working. Is that correct? And then being rich, how much money you make.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, because wealth is not only the monetary, like not just the financials, like in a hard cash. It's like everything you basically have. But yeah, basically being rich turns out to be basically your monthly salary or your yearly salary. While wealth is all the assets you have.
Okay, nice. Personally, I believe health is wealth. I think there's no point in having if you can't be healthy, if you can't look after yourself. What do you do to keep yourself healthy? Because being an entrepreneur and doing all this YouTube videos, like these things are time consuming. So how do you find time, and what do you do within that time to keep yourself healthy?
Yes, I'm not doing enough, that's for sure. But what I do is basically I'm going to the gym like 2-3 times per week, which is not that much. I mean, it's like 30 minutes to 1 hour of training. I have to work more on that. And then basically trying to eat healthy, which, I failed sometimes.
But it's like the life of an entrepreneur is not a straight line. Neither is health.
Exactly.
It's rare that you find someone that can just go only eat healthy food every single day. I think it's almost irresponsible to set yourself these kinds of, it's good to have these targets and these goals. Yes, I want to eat healthy, but if it's coming to the point where you're starting to beat yourself up and your self-talk is deteriorating because you're so focused on having to do this thing that, at the end of the day, it's not 100% necessary to just do this single thing every single day. You can give yourself some leniency, or do you believe that you can give yourself some leniency in this space?
Yeah, no, I totally believe that, because I think like being healthy also means that you're mentally healthy, and mental health is like a huge thing, especially in crypto. Like after all the markets are crashing, you need to have some mental stamina to survive that. And I think it's super important to work on your mental health as well. So, but that's what you asked. Like, it's important to just, like go outside and touch grass, like to talk to people outside of crypto, exercise, like have hobbies outside of crypto and stuff like that. This is probably super important. Definitely.
Like yesterday I had to go on a walk, and it's that really cliche kind of saying is I'll walk around a park or something and I'm going to stop and smell these flowers. Like I have to have that conscious decision, like, no, I'm going to stop and I'm going to go and smell this flower so that I can remember that life isn't just this screen that I'm looking at.
Yeah. No, I think it's super important to do that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Before we go, how are people going to get in touch with you if they want to? What's best place for people to find you?
Yeah, I think Twitter. If you look for Przemek Chojecki or PC Crypto, I think that's or on YouTube as well, then that's probably the easiest thing to get in touch. LinkedIn is also fine, but if you're just an anon on the internet, then Twitter is the best.
Cool. I'll make sure to link all of those in the description down below so that everyone can get your links and find you. Fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you.
Amazing. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you as always.
Yeah. Thank you, Sam.